Okay, welcome to the Draft Professor. We are doing summer scouting. I'm joined by Newt and Bill, and we are covering tight ends, and this is going to be a fun list. So if you didn't know, generally when we're at Draft Professor, the podcasters are not comparing too many notes before the podcast. Newt and Bill were in the studio 5 or 10 minutes prior to the podcast. We chatted up a little bit. I believe if you compare the list on the left and the right, there's 5 players that each person has that the other doesn't. Bill, do you want to run through your top 10 tight ends?
Yeah, so number 1 is Brett Norfleet, the Missouri tight end. Joe Royer out of Cincinnati. Max Clare out of Ohio State at number 3. Jack Endries from Texas at number 4. Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt at number 5. Trey Lechner from Washington State, number 6. Luke Haas from Ole Miss at number 7. Tanner Koziel, formerly of Wisconsin, now down in Houston at number 8. Sam Roush from Stanford at number 9. And Addison Ostrenga from Iowa rounding out my top 10. Newt, you want to tell the people your top 10?
Absolutely. So we have Eli Stowers, number 1 out of Vandy, Joe Royer, 2 out of Cincy, Claire, now at Ohio State, number 3, Terrence Carter, Louisiana, number 4, Jack Vealing, Michigan State, number 5, Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon, number 6, Koziel at Houston, number 7, Haas, 8 out of Ole Miss, Oscar Delp, Georgia, number 9, and then Endries at Texas rounds out my top 10.
So, Newt, I have a question for you. Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. We covered him on the podcast last night, actually. Tight end or wide receiver?
Tight end. I think with how he's built, and here's the other thing. I'm not even like how he's built. As a blocker, he's very good. I don't want to take him out of an opportunity to be an inline tight end because I covet his athleticism, which I think he's an amazing athlete. I think that not many guys can do what he can at his size. And I kind of understand that from like a power slot aspect, but then just use him as a power slot tight end and let him still also flourish as a blocker, because I think he's really, really good as a blocker. Obviously, a lot of this is very limited given the fact that T. Ferg was the starter last year. I want to see him in a larger role and what he can do with that. But he is firmly, just given his girth and his build and his blocking ability, a tight end for me.
Okay. And Bill, out of the tight ends on your list, do you want to categorize them as like who's in line and who's going to be more of a pass catching tight end?
Yeah, I would say if you're going to look more, and most of the guys that I have are going to be lean more towards pass catcher, but have the ability to play in line. And that's kind of where we're headed in terms of college football and the NFL, just like Newt talked about. You're going to have guys that have the ability to pass catch first, inline block second. I would say of the list, if we're talking about pure inline blockers, my bottom 2 in Sam Roush and Addison Ostrenga would probably be the block first, catch second. But the other 8 would be pass first, block second.
So as you asked that, or as you said that, Haas is also one that I would consider to be like a block first, catch second. I didn't get a chance to see either Roush or Ostrenga, but I think that with Haas, I think he's a great worker. He understands like route running technique, and he's a really smart player. But I think there's an athletic ceiling to him where if he's going to make it at the next level, I think it's going to be because of his blocking ability, which I like, and then also his work ethic that he brings to that. So I would kind of in there as well toss Haas. I think Delp for me as well. I would put as a inline tight end. I think he maybe even a little bit more than Haas has the ability to flex out, but those are the 2 that I have as kind of like more attached to the line rather than pass first, block second.
Okay, so now you got to sell Owen. on Jack Velling, because Owen covered Jack Velling when we did the Michigan State podcast a couple weeks ago.
He shit all over him, didn't he?
Yeah.
And
This is awful.
And I know that you did tight ends on the Weekly Huddle podcast with Owen. So, and then Owen hadn't watched Velling yet, but he watched Velling then for the Michigan State podcast. And Owen already knows that you and him do not see eye to eye on Velling, but sell us on Velling as tight end 5.
So Velling's tight end 5 for me, and he's going to definitely be more of a my guy. I totally recognize that I'm a lot higher than consensus, but I think that he brings everything that I want to the tight end position as I start to kind of like peel away the layers of the individual categories that make up my grade. He's tough as all get out. Every time he's got the ball in his hands, he's going to fight for that extra 2 or 3 yards. And that kind of like is a mentality thing for me where it's a big check in a position where you want that. I'm not saying that I need that out of every position. I'd love it, but tight end especially, I think you need to bring that mentality. And I think that's a huge thing that I love from him. I think he's the opportunity to do both or be both a pass catcher and a run blocker and do it effectively. Like I wouldn't worry about him either one of those. I'm not saying he's an athlete or as much of an athlete as some of these others out here. I'd probably say that, Sadiq and Koziel are better pass catchers than Velling is, but it's just the full package that he brings. And I think also on top of that, I'm saying that, like, yes, he does have maybe not as good film as a pass catcher. He still does those things right. He's still more athletic than maybe like a Haas where he has the ability to get open and create some separation. He's a hands catcher. He's got nice soft hands. He's got an adequate amount of athleticism to do the things that you want. And you couple that with his blocking, with his mentality, and really everything that he does where you just have a good football player on your team. I think that's why Velling's so high for me.
And Bill, do you want to highlight the 5 players that are on your list that are not on Newt's?
Yeah, so the biggest one, the most glaring omission is my number 1 tight end in Brett Norfleet. And I know Newt just talked about Jack Velling being a my guy for him. Brett Norfleet is going to be a my guy for me. When you look at him, 6'7", 235, this guy, he's got a big body frame. It's wiry. It's a wiry 235, so that's the concerning part. But he's got a catch radius that makes him a matchup nightmare, especially in the red zone, especially in jump ball situations. He's also very deceptive with his acceleration. You see a guy that's 6'7", you probably think he doesn't got the juice. Norfleet's got the juice. He also has a very good route running savvy despite his limited experience. I mean, he is going to be a junior this season, so he can return to school. But when you see a guy that young who's able to find the niches and routes, the head fakes, the easy hip turns, and get open easily, he's going to make life easier for his quarterback. The big concerns, though, is his hand placement and his footwork and his blocking is absolutely off of the wall, inconsistent. There are plays where he looks like an all-star, and there are plays where he looks like he belongs in the UFL as a blocker. And that's going to drive some teams nuts. He also is, like I said, 6'7", 235. He's lanky. He's probably closer to a power slot wide receiver than he is an actual receiving tight end. But I think you could keep him down at the tight end position. You see a lot of Dallas Goedert in his game. The same thing that Philly uses Goddard for, a pass catcher, can throw a block now and again, but that's not his game. It's to be the security blanket for Jalen Hurts. I think that's what Brett Norfleet's going to be for Pabula this season in Missouri, and he's my number 1 tight end, and I have a first-round grade on him because I see the vision, and I see the path to tight end 1.
And I think from the draft professor chatter, I think – based upon having Norfleet with a first-round grade is definitely a flag.
Yeah.
There's a flag there. Newt, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, so the only other player that I kind of wanted to ask about, I'm sure Bill watched him, Terrence Carter, Louisiana. I have him right down now. His most likely to path to the NFL is as an H-back or a fullback. I just think with his build, his size, he's like, 6'2", maybe? He's thick and he's athletic, but he's going to obviously be a really unique player. He's actually the one of all of the players I looked at, I had 9 categories, and I had to add a 10th, like build, because of him, because of just how much of an oddball he was to my grading scale. So I'm curious as to your thoughts on Carter.
Yeah, so I'm with you with Terrence Carter. It's 6'2", 245. It's a funky build. For me, he is not currently on my board because he transferred from Louisiana to Texas Tech, and there's no guarantee he's going to get the starting job over John Carlos Miller at Texas Tech. So if you're talking just pure player and talent, he's got natural hands. This guy can catch passes out of the backfield, a very good pass, a catch radius, very good route runner, finds the spot in zone coverage, but he's a below average blocker in terms of his strength, in terms of his anchor. What really concerns me is he is a guy that I watched and I couldn't quite figure it out, but I watched Louisiana's game against Marshall in the Sun Belt Championship, and I was begging for him to show up.
Yeah,
and he just
I know what you mean. Yeah, it was I like mind blowing. He had one catch in that game?
Yeah, 2 catches in that game. It blew me away that when the lights are on bright, like he just wasn't there. And I hope that was just by design. Maybe Marshall, defended him a little more effectively. He reminded me a lot of, in terms of play style, Harold Fannin Jr. when he was at Bowling Green, guy who was a very good receiver, just had a really funky size, really funky body type, wasn't the greatest blocker in the world, but he was a pass catching nightmare. And I hope that him going to Texas Tech, if he does win the starting job over John Carlos Miller, that he's used as a power slot tight end pass catching nightmare, or an H-back, like you mentioned, making him an inline tight end in his current state, just with his size at 6'2", 239, 245 in that range. I just don't see how it works as an inline blocker. He'd be more of a power slot, and I just don't think he's able to develop that in his current frame. And with him only being 6'2", I don't know how you add on much more mass.
Correct. And I mean, he is built extremely well, but like you said, like you can't add any more on and have him be the athlete that he is. And that's what makes him so unique, is what he's able to do in route running with the ball in his hands, all of those things. And the minute you try to add more weight, you take that away.
Yep, 100%.
Any other questions on tight ends?
I'm good.